Well, good evening and welcome to another episode of the Northern Berkshire Retirees Club. I, of course, am Paul W. Marino, and my guests this evening are Al Mancuso, who's our president, and the first lady of the club, his wife, Lorraine. So welcome to the show.
Nice to be here.
Yes. You're welcome. So, we are talking about, well, as I said, the Northern Berkshire Retirees Club. It's a fun bunch of people, and we meet once a month. We meet the first Thursday of each month at 10 a.m. at the Spitzer Center. And if you are of retirement age and you live in Northern Berkshire, by which we mean, Adams, North Adams, Clarksburg, Cheshire, Williamstown, Florida, Savoy, or even southern Vermont, such as,
Stanford.
I'm sorry.
Stanford.
Yes, thank you. Little louder, please. Use your outdoor voice in here. Stamford and Reedsboro and Pownell. You are welcome to become a member of the club. We are especially looking for female members, and that's one reason why I wanted Lorraine here, so that she could tell us what in particular she, as a woman, loves about being in this club.
Well, I've only been with the club for about maybe 6 months now, I think. And my husband became involved with it about 5 or 6 years ago at least, or maybe even longer ago. And he enjoyed the camaraderie and met individuals he had gone to high school with or worked with previously. So when they opened it up to...
Don't talk to the monitor, talk to us.
And when he opened it up to the retirees, men and women, it was a nice opportunity to join the club and find out what it's all about. And we've had some very interesting speakers, and the speakers have been those that have to do with the community at large and things that we can learn about. There's a very good group of people that we make friends with. We have refreshments. We are planning trips in the future or have dinners or lunches together, and it's been very nice, and I've enjoyed it.
Speaking of which, you did a great job on the spring thing.
Yes,
Except for dessert.
Yes, I know that. Well, anyway, yeah, it was, and it went smooth, and and I am in full agreement of having things documented for the next person has to do it, what was spent and all that.
And we had over 23 people there.
Yeah,
I think it was 23 people.
23 or 24 we had. Oh, 23.
It was a good group.
Yes, it was a good group. Everybody had a good time, and the next thing on the agenda is the picnic at the Greylock Club, which is very good, and I think
That'll be in August.
Right.
Yeah. And I think you got all the information, and then it's and probably when our July meeting comes, we'll get our volunteers, and we'll go from there. And that's a nice get together. A lot of them get there early to play cards and games and things like that, and and people volunteer to make whatever they make, so it'll be a good fun time.
And they can bring a guest as well, too, if the member can.
And speaking of July, our meeting in July will be on Thursday, July 6th. At what time, Lorraine?
10 o'clock in the morning.
Yes, 10 a.m. And Al, do you remember where we're meeting?
We are meeting at the Spitzer. It used to be called the Mary Spitzer Center at one time. The Spitzer Center. Next to the high rise there.
Yeah, I think it still is officially the Mary Spitzer
okay,
Center.
yeah.
And if I'm not mistaken, it was the first of its kind in the state.
Really? Didn't know that. And it's a nice area in which to meet. We have an open room in the back, and there's enough seating for, I'd say, 30 people anyway, at least. And it's comfortable, and we use a microphone so everybody can hear. So it goes quite well.
Yeah, we just started using a microphone.
But it's helpful as we get older. It's a little bit harder to hear things.
Oh, yes.
We all look forward to the raffles,
Oh, yes.
which is a fun thing to do. And it's, have the coffee or donuts, whatever they have there, and get together. And if we don't have a guest speaker, a lot of times the veterans will talk about their experience, or people will talk about their time in North Adams way back when. And it's good, to be with people that are your age and know the things that you're talking about. You talk about things that, a thing that happened. I remember Gunsmoke. There was Chester on it. And remember when we were growing up and somebody had a limp, okay, you're Chester, right? I told my son that, he had no clue what that was. And the young, so it's good to be together with people who would understand that.
Well, that reminds me of a story that Art Linkletter told, that there was a kid who was walking with a limp, and his parents took him to the doctor and couldn't find anything wrong with him, and they were going to see specialists, couldn't find anything wrong with him. Finally asked him, "Why are you walking with a limp?" "I'm Chester, I work for Marshall Dillon."
You have to be a certain age in order to get that.
Yes, you do, yeah. Things that were on TV in those days, like Sergeant Preston. Actually, came from radio, and then they evolved into TV.
I'm not that old.
I remember we had this big Zenith radio, and when radio was in its heyday, and it was very nice. And like I say, you talk to people who would understand that and what things happened in North Adams, and it's a really good get-together.
Most radio programs are before my time as well, but I've heard them on records, and they did some fabulous things.
They have a station on XM radio that does old radio shows as well, too.
Yeah. One offhand was Jack Benny had a radio show, and
Stan
Liberace.
Freeberg.
Yeah, and those people there. So, it's nice to have these people that talk of what you understand.
I'm surprised they don't bring those old radio programs back.
I think on FM they usually do the mystery programs,
It's XM, yeah, XM.
XM, yeah, they do, was it Johnny Dollar? What a name. And some other detectives, they were on the show.
Perry Mason.
Yeah, the old Perry, on the radio, Perry Mason. Yeah, so it was, like I say, if you want to come down and check it out and see what we do, and just...
The meetings don't last that long. They're about an hour at the most. Very rarely does it go longer than that. I mean, unless we have a speaker and there's a lot of questions, and of course it would, but it's mostly about an hour.
Yeah.
And like Al said, there's refreshments, there's coffee, there's donuts, and the time passes very quickly.
If you think you're interested in being a member, come to a meeting, check it out, and if you like what you see, then talk to us about becoming a member. And we will take anybody, well, almost anybody, to find out if you are one of the people we take. Come to a meeting.
Yeah.
Chances are you won't be disappointed.
Yeah. It's nice reminiscing and getting together.
So, what do you like about being president?
Well, that's a good question. I like being president because I wanted to make sure that we had a continuity in the organization. I mean, I was vice president last year, and I became president. So we'll see next year brings in about 5 months or so. We'll see what happens, but I like enjoying. I was exalted ruler in the North Adams Lodge of Elks for 2 terms, different term, one in 2000, one in 2013. So I had a little what they call parliamentary procedure you know, so I wasn't too worried about taking over the presidency of the organization.
And
what's
it is a
like-
charter, though. It's a charter from the state, right? Correct? Something like that?
I do not know. I'm only vice president.
Oh. Okay.
They don't tell me
Well, I know there's
everything.
rules and regulations you have to follow, right, correctly in order to be able to
Yeah.
have this organization. Right.
And what's it like being first lady?
Well,
It
she
hasn't
does-
changed.
She really helps me on different things. I run a lot of things by her, and I say, well, should I do this? And in fact, when we lost all our records, I had to come up with a swearing-in ceremony, you know, for the new officers. So I wrote something up, and I ran it by her to make sure that, you know, it sounds halfway
It
decent.
sounded good.
Yeah, so, plus the prayer, which, that was a temporary thing too, and you know, probably next time around, we'll probably get some input on how we want to improve it and change it to keep it as a permanent record and keep all these records together, and hopefully they won't be lost again.
Yeah, well, how were the records kept originally?
I think the president had them in a folder, and I think 2 or 3, 4 years ago maybe, the president passed on. He passed away, and no one could locate the records. No
It's
one.
tough when it happens.
Yeah,
And in fact, one of our members knew the wife of the gentleman that passed away, and she looked and she couldn't find them. So where they are or what happened to them, nobody knows. So that's why we're basically feeling our way and starting from scratch and getting all our paperwork together. And
well, interestingly enough, I do have a similar story to that. In 1906, Wallace Brown, who was in charge of the Berkshire Hills Sanatorium, held an open house, and he read a paper that he had written, and his audience were members of the Berkshire and North Berkshire medical societies, and they were so thrilled that they submitted it for publication and decided to have it put in each of them in their permanent archives. Well, I tracked down the Berkshire Medical Society and learned that what that meant was when it went into their permanent archives, whoever was secretary put it with his papers, and when he retired or died, maybe those papers would be handed on to the next one.
talking case with her father, he got the Purple Heart for the Battle of the Bulge, and there is no official record of it because in St. Louis they had a huge fire and it wiped out
The archives.
the archive, so there's no record of it, you know. So, you know, I know what you're saying. Papers get lost and nobody knows what happened or, you know, where they were.
Or there's
so.
only one repository or one person that has it and something happens and
Yeah, so I should think, well, for one thing, we have computers now.
that's how.
So keeping things electronically makes it a lot easier to duplicate them and have them in a central place where everyone can get at it, get at them, rather.
Yeah.
See, we've solved a problem here already. Just the
Okay.
three of us.
Yeah.
But
Go ahead.
Pardon me, I'm not sure whether we want to put this under old business or new business, have a motion to actually set up a depository for our records
It's a good idea.
Yeah. You know, have them.
and have every officer have immediate access to it So a password to get in that everybody knows.
Yeah, I think that's something that should be discussed.
Yeah, well, when July, when we meet, well,
No, we'll do it in June.
oh, okay, yeah, June.
Because remember, well, we're doing our show today in May, so it will show throughout June so that people will know that we're meeting in July.
I see, okay.
Whereas if we were talking about June here, I'm not even sure that this show would get on the air in time for the June meeting. And then people are hearing about a meeting that's weeks past.
Yeah,
Correct.
that's right, we're meeting, this June meeting is Thursday.
Yes.
Which gives us a
So
few
it's
days,
pretty
yeah,
quick.
yeah, yeah, so, I think I remember about the club, some of the early days when we met at the Greylock Club. That's when I came in. A lot of guys would get there. It started at 10. They'd get there at 9, and they'd play cards and talk. Talk it up. And by the time the meeting started, we'd have to gavel it. So hey, stop playing cards. We're starting our meeting. So, but like I say, come down, look at it, and see if it's something for you.
And we have 11 and a half minutes to go. Oh, God. Have some more water.
Okay, I will.
So, just another reminder, we are meeting on Thursday, July 6th at 10 a.m. Where, Lorraine?
The Barry Spitzer Center.
Oh, well done! Here, open your mouth, have a biscuit.
Okay.
You have to remember to chew, or people will think you didn't get anything.
This is true.
Chew. You can't swallow those whole.
Dude, so we can talk about the past. Do you remember when we had Newberries, Grants?
Oh, yes, I
Grants.
remember Newberries.
We had Grants, and we had Little's Music House on Main Street.
And Sears.
Sears.
Meanies.
Pennies, J.C. Penney's.
Oh, yes.
They had those, those overhead, they put a thing in a tube and
I don't remember those.
Pneumonic tubes, yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, but I do remember going to Penny's with my mother, and they have the 3 mirrors, one in front and 2 on the sides.
Yeah, I remember that. How about the Army-Navy store? It was
Oh,
on
yes.
Eagle Street, across from what
Yeah.
was St. Francis Church.
Wines.
Wines, yeah.
Yeah, Wine Shoes, we used to go to Wines.
Style Shop. Peggy Parker's.
Yeah. The old Mohawk, which is still there. And we had the Paramount. And in the early part of my life, I remember the Richmond Theater.
Oh, yes.
And Richmond was quite the hotel at the time. And we also had the Wilmington Hotel at the time in North Adams. And I can remember they had a barber shop there and they had a bar. I don't know if it was a grill, but it was a bar there. I remember Sprague Electric get out like Christmas Eve day or whatever, and there a lot of the Spragues don't have their holiday chair there. And then there was the diner that was near the post office.
The Legos.
The Legos diner, I remember, had the slide door.
I do not remember that.
Okay, well, there was a diner there they had. And then on Bank Street, they had Lepresto's haberdashery, where they had their hats, because in those days, fedora was, it was like a shirt, tie, fedora. That was
They
there.
have a millinery shop, too, for women's hats. They had that, too.
And the transcript, you could look down and they were printing the transcript
Yes.
down there. And you could
That's
see it.
something I remember going to the Y with my brother. We'd go by there, smell the machine oil.
And also, you talk about the YMCA, that's where I got my vaccination for school. Of course, in those days, we had a lot of kids in North Adams, post-war baby boomers. And that's where think was it Dr. Larkin? I can't remember what doctor
He did
would
it.
come,
He
you know,
did.
and give you a shot. And
Actually,
those days, the vaccinations looked that big.
I think they had a number of doctors, because I remember being there with my mother, and they had little booths made of privacy screens.
Yes.
All over the gym.
Yes, they did. They had little sections you would go. Yeah, and yeah, it was.
Now, do you remember what was in the Richmond Theater after it closed?
I do not remember. I was very young when I went to my first movie, so no, I don't.
It was, well, it closed in the 1940s, and about 1950 it was purchased by the Eagles Lodge. And what they did was they took out the balconies and took out the seats and raised the floor so it was level with the stage, and that became their lodge room. And when I was 4 years old, my brother Ralph's girlfriend of the time was the daughter of an Eagle, and we were invited to some shindig they were having. And I actually have a memory of being in there. She took me up into what had been the dressing room area, and we were in a room where there was a pool table, and there was a quarter flight of steps going up to where they had the bar. And a couple of guys were playing pool, and she sat down with me on the outskirts and said, "These men are going to teach us to play pool." That's all I remember from it.
It had to be the late 40s when it closed. The late 40s, maybe 1950, because I went. I would say 1949, 1950. I'm saying that I went to it. And I remember it was a Tarzan movie, and like you say, the balcony way up there. I think you needed oxygen where we were. I think.
It was higher than the Mohawk balcony.
I think it was, yes, and that's the only part I
Yeah,
remember.
well, they had 3 balconies there, although the third balcony was just another tier of the second balcony.
No.
But my father could remember sitting up there in that third balcony and thinking, this is fabulous.
Good view, but kind of far away.
But then remember Mohawk Theater and Paramount was 20 cents, 5 cents 10 cents for a little box of popcorn. So what we go to Newberry's for 10 cents. You got a big bag. So we could have a big bag of that little thing they gave you. And then if it was a real special movie, it was 25 to 35 cents. Like Walt Disney came out with some movie, I think it was Lady and the Tramp or something, it was supposed to be something special. That was like, I think 35 cents instead of 22 or 25.
That's when there was a lot of people in the movie theater too.
Yeah.
A lot of people went to see shows.
And then I remember at Newberry's, if you recall the donut machine they had at the end of the counter. That was so fast. They'd come down and dump it in the thing and take it out. It was a fascinating thing to see.
That I do not remember
Yeah,
seeing.
they had a donut machine there. And then, of course, you wouldn't get away with it today. During Easter time, they had live chickens and live ducks, which probably lasted maybe a week and a half before they died. But they sold them down there. And then you buy the little feed like this for like a quarter. You buy it like that. And one year, my father, we bought some. And he wasn't gonna. He went down to the grave and got a big bag. And we had a chicken coop there and things like that. But yeah, I remember. I get trying to think of.
Could buy fish too.
Yeah.
Goldfish.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Goldfish and turtles.
Yes.
Those little
That's
tiny
what we
little
were
box
allowed
turtles.
for
Yeah,
pets.
little box turtle.
Yeah. Like I say, after a week and a half, 2 weeks, they're gone. They weren't the best of the.
Oh, I don't know. Our goldfish and our turtles lasted longer than 2 weeks.
Yeah, fish and
But
turtles.
eventually they bit the dust,
Yeah.
figuratively speaking.
Yeah.
And we have just under 3 minutes to go. It's actually a very short half hour.
Well, it depends, it depends, you know. But I don't know, do you remember the carnival they had at, it's Houghton Street? They used to bring in this merry-go-round. They brought in a merry-go-round right where, I'm gonna say behind the inn, you know, the porches. They had a big merry-go-round, and we're talking late 40s. And I was too small, they wouldn't allow me on the horse. I had to sit, they had benches, they had a 2-bench thing, so I had to sit there. I couldn't go on the horse.
Well, I remember going to a couple of circuses down at Knoll Field.
Yeah. Do you remember the big fire they had in Hartford, circus fire?
No.
They had a tent there that they waterproofed with gasoline and wax. And you know the rest of the story. They had a fire. A lot of people were. They interviewed one child that was there. Well, not a child, maybe early teens, and he had a jackknife and he cut, and he got him and other people got out of it. But you could look that up. The big Hartford circus fire.
Ooh, thank you. I will look that up.
So it was a pretty bad disaster.
And I don't think any of us is old enough to remember the fairgrounds,
No, I don't remember
which
that.
is where Barnum and Bailey held their circuses. They came to town, they were in North Adams at least 17 times.
Really?
Wow.
No, that's got to be years and years
Oh,
ago.
I don't
Oh,
remember.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, pre-1900.
Yeah.
You know, yeah.
But the the fairground was still there, and Al Bichond bid on it when it was up for sale.
Uh-huh.
But Sprague got it and used it as a toxic waste dump.
Yeah, because there's nothing down there, right? It's just a open area.
Oh,
Yeah.
you go down the
Yeah,
hill,
it's
but
just an
that
open
was
area there.
that was before they had all the West Main Street and everything. That was a big, huge fairground. In fact, I think the railroad track was there at one time when they brought in a lot of, if I remember, the track. Yeah.
That could be. Well, we have 5 seconds remaining. So thank you, Lorraine, for being here. Thank you, Al, for being here. Thank you for watching. And please join us on Thursday, July 6th at 10 a.m. at the Spitzer Center. Have a
Hope
wonderful
to
day.
see you there.
Yeah.